Hey, hi, hello, howdy, everyone. It is me, Kore Kaware, and a happy birthday to me. I guess that sounds a little self-congratulatory, but you know, I'm getting silly with it. We're entering a new era, by which I mean everything is staying exactly the same. So, this week it's going to be a little bit of a combination video. I have a special surprise that I will reveal at the end of this video. I hope everyone enjoyed the animatic if you went to watch that. Thank you guys so much if you did watch that. I had a lot of fun making it. But this week, because it is my birthday, I'm going to be talking about how I designed myself, my little character that I used to represent myself, my silly little guy with silly little wings. So, let's get right into it. To start things off, I figured I would introduce myself because, well, I never actually properly gave an introduction. So, hi, I'm Kore, I use they them pronouns, and I am currently 22 years old as of Monday, which I know as of the publishing of this video has not happened yet, but don't worry about it. I'm 22, you can trust me. So, when I was designing my little character, I had 3 guiding principles in mind. I wanted to capture Angelic, homunculus, and this didn't really come through as much, but sort of viscera vibes, almost. I wanted to capture the same patterning as the marbling that can happen in meat. And so you can see that a little bit on the pattern, but I just think that it's cool. I like angelic and homunculus vibes. I don't know. I like lore. I have so much lore. It's in my brain. It'll get shared at some point. I like lore. It's silly. So, when designing my character, as you can see, I leaned very hard into the angelic vibes. I did not do fake ball joints, but I definitely considered it, and you can see at a couple of points in the animatic, the previous design of Kore did have certain more doll-like characteristics, which played more into that homunculus theme. A homunculus, by the way, for anyone who does not know, is a facsimile of a human being created by a higher power of some kind. But I just got a little silly with it. I don't know, I had fun with it. So, this is a little disorganized video. I am very, very sorry. I am just not quite sure what to talk about when I'm not talking about my silly little stories. So anyways, let's get into the questions. So I will be putting screenshots of these questions up on the screen as I read them out. So, who is your favorite Danganronpa character? Personally, so my favorite when I first got into the franchise, I think, was Komeda, and then it was Korekiyo, and currently it's Togumi. The original Togumi. I'm very sorry, everyone. As you can probably tell from this, my taste is rather horrendous. I like men who are terrible and not good. Speaking of which, happy new Alien stage to all of the 3 other Luca fans out there. I'm so sorry. My taste is not great. Thoughts on Hajime Hinata? I think that he is such an interesting protagonist. I genuinely, I love how they wrote him. I love that he has the personality that he has. He is a smart aleck, and he is he's so entertaining to be in the head of. And Danganronpa 2 is so well written in large part because of him. He is so great. What other ideas do you have for character designing? You cannot hear it probably, but I have an entire notebook that I have right on my desk right next to me, and it has a full page with tiny little handwriting with every single video idea that I have had since I thought of creating a YouTube channel. In specific, I am going to be continuing my miraculous redesigns and rewrite. I am most likely going to be designing myself and my friends as probably Cookie Run characters at some point, just because that's a fun little video that I would like to try making. The Cookie Run style seems very, very fun to try and recreate. I would like to do 10 art style challenges, stuff like that, both for media that I enjoy and artists that I admire. I have quite a lot of ideas, and I may even write a completely original Danganronpa. God, I am fighting every muscle in my body to pronounce that in a way that does not sound cringy as all get out. Which Danganronpa game do you think is the best written or best overall, and what fandoms was I in when I was younger? The best written game, in my opinion, for Danganronpa is probably Danganronpa 2. I really like the way that Danganronpa 1 established the concept, and it was a very strong opening act, but Danganronpa 2 took the best parts of Danganronpa 1 and added on its own flair, and in my opinion, one of the best casts. I really, really liked Danganronpa 2. And I felt that Danganronpa 3 had the best concepts, but some of the worst execution in any of the games. So, it's such a good game. It's so underappreciated. And what fandoms was I in when I was younger? I'm very sorry to admit it. My first fandom was Hetalia, and then my second fandom was Attack on Titan. And then I got into Seraph of the End and Danganronpa, and I'm still into Seraph of the End now, as well as Danganronpa, obviously, but I'm still into Seraph of the End. It's absolutely insane. If you've never read it, I would highly recommend it. It's not good, but it's very fun. Any tips for redesigning/drawing characters in general? I personally try to think about what is the character's concept, what is their job, and then what is their role in the story. Those are the big three things that I try and keep in mind. So for example, when I was redesigning Miyu, I was thinking, okay, her concept is she is loudmouthed and dirty. She takes inspiration from girlish Gyaru fashion, and she is an inventor. And that is also her job, she is an inventor. And then her role in the story is to be a foil to Oma and to act as a sympathetic, or a less sympathetic victim than we're used to seeing. So trying to combine all of those, I gave her a heart on her cheek, but it was on the left side because that represents deceit. I gave her practical overalls that she could wear in the shop, and I kept the the leather straps that she had in her original design, because that plays into her dirty sense of humor, her loudmouthed nature, and it establishes her as someone that has independent fashion tastes of what her job is. So it's just trying to combine like different aspects of what the character is meant to be. I also keep this in mind when I'm designing entirely original characters. I try and figure out, what did I originally plan for this character's job to be? What sort of person are they? What's their personality like? How much effort would they put into their appearance? And what sort of lifestyle do they lead? Would they want to dress in a fancier manner than they do if given the chance? Stuff like that. I also forgot to add, part of why I focus so much on narrative role when designing characters is one of the fandoms that I was in when I was younger was Homestuck. What is my favorite food? Honestly, I don't know that I have one. I am a very picky eater, but I also cook for myself. I think probably my favorite food would be eggs, just because I'll eat them in a lot of different ways, and they're one of the easiest things to make for myself, and they're very versatile, and I eat them in a lot of things. But I don't know, if we're going with just what's my favorite food that I don't have to think about that much, maybe ice cream too. Ice cream's up there. How long have I been doing art or really getting into it? So I started doing digital art when I was finishing up middle school. I got my first laptop when I was in 7th or 8th grade, and I started doing art with a mouse on MS Paint. And then I got a drawing tablet when I got into high school. And throughout high school, I continued working on art, continued drawing on my own. Throughout the pandemic, I continued studying art. I actually took an art class through my school. That's the only art class that I've ever taken. I've taken one. And so I am primarily self-taught. I pretty much learned through watching speed paints from artists that I admire. I'm always curious how someone found their fandom/favorite series. So my question, how did I find Danganronpa in the first place, and what made me stay until now? So I found Danganronpa because of a friend's recommendation in middle school. I believe it was probably 7th grade before V3 had even come out. And it was when the V3 marketing was happening. I remember this. It was when the V3 marketing was happening. One of my friends sent me the trailer on... It had to have been Google Hangouts at that point. I wasn't even on Discord yet. And she said, oh my gosh, these characters look so cool. And there's an anime, and she sent me, like, what the Danganronpa anime was, and I found it on Hulu, and I watched the anime, and then I bought the second game for myself, and then we, on the day that Danganronpa V3 released, we made it a game to guess who the killers and who the victims would be. And it was a lot of fun, actually. And what made me stay until now? Danganronpa is one of those games to me that could be... It's very compelling to think about because it's so imperfect. And I don't say that as a slight against it. Nothing is perfect, I mean, but Danganronpa's flaws are so interesting to think about because of what they say about the production of the games, the time period in which they were released, the audience which responded to them. And I always think it's so interesting to think about. And every year that I spend thinking about Danganronpa, I have more and more questions that make me so invested in thinking about the universe. Like, how was Hope's Peak founded? How was the concept of ultimates? How did that come about? You know, how far in the future is it? Just how far has technology advanced if ultimates are, you know, so prominent in society? It's just, it's an endless well that just keeps giving and giving. And it's so much fun to entertain the thoughts. Do I have any art advice, particularly on shading skin? So I will make a dedicated how I do anatomy and how I do shading video in the future, but typically my advice when shading skin is I start with a cool tone. I typically use I typically use a very vibrant purplish blue. And then I set the layer to alpha lock, which prevents any new sections of the layer from being colored in, so you can basically only recolor what's already on the layer. And I add pink or orange, depending on what looks better with the skin tone in question. And then I set the layer to either multiply or linear burn, or sometimes color burn if I want it to be particularly light. And I find that makes it just look nice. And thoughts on Nagito Komeda? He was my first favorite character in Danganronpa, and he's so funny to think about. Every day I think about, I'll try to find the meme and put it on screen if I can. Every day I think about that meme that's just a bunch of Tumblr sexy men in the plane, and someone in the comments saying that plane is crashing. And like, yeah, no, that plane is crashing. No one is surviving that. Do you think you'll ever redesign/rewrite the other Danganronpa games? I honestly do think that I will. I'm thinking about Danganronpa 1 specifically. I only have a couple of critiques of Danganronpa 2. I do really think that it's an overall very, very solid game, especially on the writing front. But I do think that I will probably take a crack at least Danganronpa 1. And if I do give Danganronpa 2 a shot, I think that it won't be as in-depth as V3. It's not a complete rewrite. It would just probably be from maybe chapter 3 on. If you know, you know. How do you come up with the stories for your redesigns? So this may come as a surprise, considering I primarily run an art YouTube channel, but I consider myself more of a writer than an artist, funny enough. I always think about the story behind what I'm going to be drawing before I even start drawing it. And that's part of why I wanted to not only redesign, but rewrite Danganronpa V3. So coming up with a story is the first step in any process. I think about what issues I have with the original story, And then I think about, if I were given this prompt or if I were given these constraints, how would I have written that? And then I figure out, okay, well, would that not be feasible? How difficult would this be? And I decide if it's worth it to keep it in or not. Like, for example, when I decided that Alma's design would change chapter by chapter, I don't think that that would actually be feasible in-game. I think that that would be far too much work for the art team, especially considering they were working on the Danganronpa 3 anime at the same time. That would be just way too much work for them, which is, you know, it wouldn't happen in-game. But if I were in an ideal world, that is what I would want to do with his design throughout the game. And so, because it would be compelling. And I also try and think about what would be interesting from an audience perspective. So, for example, it's not always more interesting from an audience perspective to have a random twist that you don't see coming. It's more interesting to think about, okay, how are ways that we can layer in clues that would give the audience something to chew on, you know? So like with, you know, having Korekiyo survive chapter 3, the audience is given, you know, the established fact early on that whoever kills the second body found, they won't be executed. That is already established. The audience knows that this is a factor in play, and it's a little bit of Chekhov's gun. If you establish something, it has to pay off later. And so it does pay off. People are watching this trial and they're expecting that someone has to be executed, and so the shock of Tenko's dead body being put through this execution hits because the audience could have figured that out before it happened. Now, that's just one of the things that, like, it's a very interesting process for me. I love thinking about writing, and I'm a massive nerd. I love languages, and as much as I joke about the English language being, you know, a mistake and a horrible invention, I do genuinely really like it. I love precision of language. I love thinking about what words I can use to specifically convey whatever I'm thinking about. And if it's not obvious from the everything about me, I have ADHD, so I have a lot going on in my brain at just about any given moment, unless I am very, very tired. And trying to figure out how to arrange my words into an order where the meaning that I intend will be conveyed is something that I've kind of been doing my entire life. So it's so interesting for me to try and piece that together into coherent stories from concepts that are already presented to me. So a lot of how I come up with just concepts for stories for rewrites is just figuring out what would I have wanted to see, what would be interesting, and how can we make that happen? Now, getting into the last part of the video, you may have seen, the design that I have been drawing looks similar to me right now, but it's not exactly the same, now is it? So let me introduce you all to, drumroll please, look at my silly little guy! I have a brand new silly little PNG, and this is not quite a design update. Both designs still work just as well, but this is just a more coherent design that I actually have references for instead of just throwing together a bunch of stuff. And I now have so many new rights, such as I can actually move my little pen when I draw, and my mouth can open, and I can even blink. Wow, shocking. Maybe within the next 3 months I'll figure out how to sit down or something like that, you know, who knows? But yes, I had a lot of fun remaking my PNG. I will be making, if I make any PNG updates in the future, or if I even at any point get a proper VTuber model, I will be making update videos on how I actually did all of that. In this video, I just wanted to show a little bit of the actual art process rather than design process. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a lot of fun just making this video. I had a lot of fun making the animatic. Please, please, please go watch it if you have not watched it yet. I think that it's so interesting to be just showing off my OC lore, and I hope that you guys enjoyed. I had a lot of fun, I said that already, but I just I don't know, thank you guys for watching my channel. I'm happy that anyone enjoys my content. I genuinely didn't expect to hit more than 500 subscribers, and now we're almost at 700, which is insane. Please like my videos if you liked my videos. Make sure to, I don't know, comment, follow me on the things, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week for my spooky little Halloween video. We will be designing a certain spooky dating sim. So if you have any guesses, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will see you guys next week. Bye bye!